The commander of the U.S. Air Force's aggressor squadron said China 3 times in a row in an interview. He told reporters that he was trying to imitate Chinese Air Force fighters in order to defeat them in a possible war. Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Finkenstadt, commander of the 64th Aggressor Squadron, said in an interview. Both the Secretary of the Air Force and the Secretary of Defense say their focus is on China, 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 and that's what we're here for. We're here to do the best we can, simulating our enemy. In the interview, Finkenstadt quoted his boss, Major General Keith Cunningham, commander of the U.S. Air Force Operations Center, as saying about the China challenge. Aggressor squadrons, he says, are now preoccupied with simulating threats posed by Chinese Air Force fighters. His 64th Squadron is primarily responsible for playing foreign air forces in mock air combat confronts with other U.S. forces. In the past, the force has used F-16C fighter jets, but now it is experimenting with stealth F-35s. Some analysts believe it is meant to mimic the Chinese Air Force's J-20 fighter jet. Finkenstadt says demand for aggressor simulations is soaring because you have to do the best you can when you have to go to war. He emphasized that his troops constantly watch and study the enemy and do their best to replicate the enemy's most lethal methods of combat, providing the most powerful simulation of the enemy for U.S. fighter forces. During the interview, the U.S. military granted rare access to the imaginary enemy's squadron home at Nellis Base and released a series of new photos of the F-35 aggressor fighter. It is worth mentioning that the establishment of the aggressor squadron of the U.S. Air Force is indirectly related to China. During the Vietnam War, North Vietnamese fighter units supported by China and the Soviet Union caused great problems for the U.S. Air Force. The U.S. Air Force claims that the Korean War outnumbered Chinese volunteers 10-1, but in Vietnam that ratio dropped dramatically to just 2.5-1 by 1968, meaning that for every 2.5 North Vietnamese fighters shot down, the U.S. was losing 1 fighter. This led to the determination of the U.S. military to create aggressor units to train its fighter pilots in highly realistic air combat simulations. The story of the famous air combat movie Top Gun revolves around an aggressor unit of the United States Navy. Now, the commander of this aggressor squadron of the U.S. Air Force is no longer hiding the latest operational purpose, that is, the Chinese Air Force stealth J-20 fighter simulation training, which shows that the U.S. military regards China as the primary enemy at every level. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, share and comment.